Yoshi the Oreo here. I know it's been a while. I've been off the internet for quite some time, especially after that whole Mike Hollow situation. But that didn't change my opinion because clearly I wasn't really in the right mind at that time. Because at first I did not want to do all that with him, and I even told him that I was like, I'm just here to apologize, and I should have just ended the call right there, knowing damn well he was going to make a video. Because that's what types of people like that always fucking do. House pits always like to do. They always try to make themselves look good. But I know that's a very loaded term for me to actually say. But don't worry, I'll explain why I call him a house pit. If you're actually familiar with the politics, you know, in terms of Democrats and Republicans and stuff like that, you'll find yourself realizing that there's a bit of a divide. And that divide is getting wider and wider and wider and wider and wider to the point where I'm just kind of sitting here questioning, how the hell is this country still a country? When you got whites versus blacks, blacks versus whites, Asians and Mexicans, they haven't jumped in yet. But I don't know, maybe sooner or later it'll get there. When the new generation comes in and gets indoctrinated in the woke, you'll start to see it. Right now it's pretty small. It's not very noticeable, but it's pretty small. But I look at that and I go, every time I see a politician or someone like Mike or anybody else scream, I'm here for the people. I kind of sit there and I have to wonder, is that really the truth? Is that really the case? I mean, hell, Nick Fuentes says he's there for white people. That man scams the fuck out of them motherfuckers day in and day out. Talking about his assets was stolen by the FBI. FBI gave his money back a long time ago. So what the fuck are you talking about, So I look at that and I go, what do they mean by people? In a country full of influencers, scammers, house pits, grifters, what do they mean by people? I'll tell you what they mean by people. When they say people, they mean suckers. Those who fail to listen to the dialectic in their voice and fail to realize they're not here for you, they're just here for themselves. And their actions show that they're primarily here for themselves. So then the next question then becomes, when someone says they're here for the children, let me walk by this first. But hey, how's it going? When people say I'm here for the children, the first question should come to mind is, whose children? In a world that is being racially divided day in and day out, whose children takes top priority in your so-called efforts of safety and insurance? And this is why I say he's a bit of a house pit. Because when it comes to a corporation's IP, that is classified as a child in his logic. And I've never seen him move this much about children, considering the fact that he does videos on FGC players who have a mountain of allegations of doing things with minors in fighting game tournaments. You don't debate them motherfuckers, but he definitely want to debate people that watch anime. And that kind of goes to show me that when you have a person who values man's creation, aka corporations' IPs, far more than God's image. That ought to tell you something. It really does. That a corporation's IP take more precedent than that little booger monkey that comes out of that woman's crotch. And there's a reason why I say that. I may actually, yeah, I do care about children, but my position is a lot more sensible. You know, mine's is, I care. But the first priority is that you have to show the signs that you actually care yourself. You know? Because if you don't care, why the fuck should I care? You know? Why should I care about a parent who's worried about online strangers, but you more than likely live next to somebody with a computer science degree with some form of information on internet security, but you don't want to use that person's skills to set up your security on your fucking router? Just saying. Or, why should I care if you don't have the sense to look your child, excuse me, I don't mean to call them children, I mean to call them booger monkeys, in the face and say, no, you're not old enough for this damn device. When you're older and you understand what the hell you're doing, then we'll get you a device. Until then, shut up, be quiet, and that's it. Well, obviously, parents can't really do that. Not because they can't be parents, let's be honest here. And it's a failure on the anti-lolly and the pro-lolly side that doesn't really understand the deeper issue of why parents can't be parents. It's more than just, being helicopter parents and stuff like that. It's the welfare state that no one wants to fucking solve for some reason, where the woman is incentivized to kick the man out of the house for a fixed income by the government. So long as the man is not in that house, they'll get the money. But the second that man is in that house, they stop getting the money. And this is something that has been conspiring ever since the 1960s, to the point to where you're starting to see the ramifications of these systems, aka socialism, aka Marxism, aka woke, is having an effect not only on the black community, but people as a whole. Like, this ain't just happening with black people, it's happening with white people too. Because white people are the biggest beneficiaries of the welfare state in terms of food stamps. Everybody always want to talk about black people on welfare, but nah, you saltines be on there too. And I say that with love, by the way. I love white people. I want to make out abundantly clear. Just because I say something that sounds offensive doesn't mean I hate you. No. See, my hate comes from what you believe in. So if you're the type of person that believes in Carl Schmitt, you are my enemy. If you believe in Karl Marx, you're my enemy. Why? Well, obviously, if you've read their philosophy, why the hell would I be friends with a person who reads a philosopher who looks at my skin color and go, why the hell is this thing in my society? Why would I be friends with that? So clearly, those are my enemies. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I can't negotiate with people like that. I can't negotiate with people in Islam where their literal prophet owned black slaves. How can you negotiate with something like that? It's like a Jew negotiating with a Nazi regime. How do you think that's going to go? That's like a Christian and a Jew negotiating with a Muslim. How do you think that's going to go when that book says kill that motherfucker? It ain't going to go that well. So, like I said, I'm pretty honest with my position when I say protect the children. I've already protected my children, my nieces and nephew. My brother, he owns guns. He's doing his job too. So, that part is locked in. I ain't got to worry about that. Our community, I ain't got to worry about that either. Almost every motherfucker in a square inch of my damn community has a gun ready to blast the motherfucker that don't belong in that goddamn block. So I ain't worried about that. But everybody else that don't give two shits and a solid fuck about your little booger monkey that comes out of your woman's crotch, fuck you. And I mean that. And I mean it. I'm being serious when I say that. Fuck your kids. I don't care. Fuck you and fuck your kids. Because you don't give a fuck about your kids to begin with. So why should I care? To the point to where my rights, in terms of freedom of expression, is being violated because you don't want to uphold your fucking responsibilities. Being assisted by a house pit who operates more on the violation of a corporation's IP than anything else. And let's look at it this way. Why would he debate those people in the FGC? Why would he go any further than that? He makes money off that. Why would he destroy an organization that has more allegations of sexual misconduct towards minors than saying anything about Epstein? Okay, that's fair. And now his defense, he'll say, well, I'm a very small channel, so it wouldn't make that big of a difference. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. You are 200,000, subscribers. You wouldn't make a blip with your so-called fucking influence anyway, so okay, that's a fair point. But compared to everybody else in the FGC, you're a dot as well, nigga. Who the fuck listens to you when they got Maximilian, dude? Whether that man touches, motherfuckers buy that shit. And then years later, people want to talk about the problems with the thing that he was hyping up the entire time. Now, no flack on Maximilian, dude. I'm not saying he's fake. I'm not saying he's a grifter. But I will say he's a hype man. That's his job. And that's fair. He's a hype man. He's not there to, fuck the corporation. And he's definitely not there to, well, he'll say he's not there to fuck the corporation, and he's definitely not there to fuck the consumer. I kind of see him as a person that likes to play both sides. He'll keep his criticisms down to a point as the sales come in, and then when the sales are done, then he'll say something. But inadvertently, that does fuck the consumer. Especially when there are issues with the game that no one wants to address because, God forbid, you're, negative or some shit. All that fucking toxic positivity they always like to throw around. And a lot of people will probably say, well, oh, you're probably just saying all this because, Mike called you a pedophile because you defend lolly art. No, I'm not. Well, it probably did get to me, but I had to remind myself what the fuck I did back in my life. But I'm pretty sure he never did in his life as well. I put my life on the line for a kid. I ain't want to. Now, let me make abundantly clear, because remember, I said I do have a firm line and a firm stance on protecting the children. I protect my own. Everybody else, fuck y'all. I don't care. Especially if you don't care. And I didn't care too, because mama and daddy wanted to act a fool in the 2001 Vision Center, where the daddy came in and started beating the fuck out of the mama. I mean, he was beating the fuck out of her. And all the white people in that damn thing, they were just screaming like, oh my God, stop, please, sir, stop, you need to stop that. Dude kept beating her. And where am I? I'm in the waiting room like, oh, it's just a nigga moment. Just let it run by. Don't worry. It'll die out. You ain't got to do shit. And that's how I was back then, me watching the Boondocks and everything. I understood not to step into a nigga moment. It is hot as balls out here, people. Woo! But, and the doctor, he's like, middle age, in his 50s, 60s. He's like, excuse me, sir, could you help us get this man off this woman in this room over here, please? And you know, at first I was like, now I wonder why a white doctor, now this is me back in like 2014. Yeah, like 2014, 2013. Actually, no, this was back in like 2008. Yeah, 2008. Now, at first I was like, I wonder what a white doctor would want me to do about a black person in a city where if a white person does something to a black person, all of a sudden, you know, they in trouble, irregardless of the context. And I was like, nah, I ain't doing nothing. Because remember my policy. Fuck your kids, I don't care. Especially if you don't care. So if you don't care, why the fuck would I care? And the child is in the room screaming too. And when he's done beating the woman, you know, he takes the kid, puts him in his car, comes back in the store and continues beating up on the woman, right? I'm just sitting there like, oh, well, whatever. I'm just gonna sit here, wait until, you know, it's my turn for my eye appointment. You know, I got diabetes, my eyes are fucked up and everything and shit. I'm like, I ain't got time for this. And as far as I'm concerned, that motherfucker probably got a knife on him. I ain't sticking my head in nothing, okay? Because if I get shanked, the only person that's gonna care is the person that I live with, that I take care of. Everybody else is gonna be like, oh, well, that's just another statistic. But I'll let you know a little side of me. I may be a heartless son of a bitch, unlike most people on this fucking platform that want to pretend that they're actually good people when they turn that fucking camera on. But I'm gonna let you know, that decision I made that day, it actually did bother me. It was bothering me as I was hearing that man beat the fuck out of that woman. I don't know what she looked like. All I know is, he's got this tall ass nigga, taller than me, by the way. And I'm like 5'11", so he's like 6'1", 6'2". Beating up on a woman in another room, no one don't want to do anything. No one can do anything, you know? And it kept eating at me. So I said, you know what? Let me see what I can do. I ain't gonna jump in there and be a Superman, you know, fuck that. Because if I have to fight, I'm going for the throat. I'm just saying, I'm just going to kill. I ain't going to throw fists. I'm going to make sure your body don't move after that. Because that's how I was raised. I wasn't raised to fight. I was raised to kill. Just go straight for the fucking throat. Don't box. Just go for the throat. Throw dirty punches. End it. And get the fuck out of there. That's how I was raised. So I go in there, and he's just beating the fuck out of her with a belt. Big old fat woman too. I was like, all right, you one of the brothers, okay. I said, so talking to you should be pretty easy by now. So I was like, excuse me, sir. I said, hey. And he was just beating the fuck out of her. I was just like, excuse me. I was like, let me talk to you. I ain't here to swing on you. I said, let me talk to you. Put the belt down for a second. I said, what the hell's going on here? And he's like, this bitch doing all this goofy ass shit and yada 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 and blah 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 blah. I was like, okay, I understand. And I was like, was that your kid that you took out of the store and took him somewhere? Because I didn't know you put him in the car or not. I said, was that your kid? He's like, yeah, that's my son. You know, I love my son. He everything to me. I said, okay, that's good, that's great. I like that. I like a young man, especially a black man, that can look at their child and say, that's mine. And they want to shoulder that responsibility. I appreciate that. But I'm going to have to stop you. Because if you keep doing this to her, you're going to sour your relationship with your kid. And this is what's going to happen. All that lashing you gave to her in this store, in 2001 Vision Center, she's going to take all that hatred that you instilled in her, and she's gonna put it in your damn kid. The kid was like 3 years old, like toddler. And I said, you're gonna fuck up your relationship with your kid. Your kid ain't gonna want to do anything to do with you. Because now in his mind, you the villain. Because you beating up on mama. And I said, if you love your kid, you put that damn belt down. Because if you don't, say goodbye to your relationship with your child. And whatever you're going through today is not going to be comparable to what the fuck you're going to handle tomorrow. So if you do love your kid, put the belt down and just walk away. And he calmed down. And he's like, you know what? You're right. You're right. So he ain't looking at me, but he looking at her. But I can still tell, like, deep inside, like, he was, like, that anger was still kind of boiling around. And he's like, come with me. And I was like, okay. I hope this man ain't gonna pull a gun out on me because, you know, I'm defenseless. I ain't got nothing. This man probably got a knife and he probably got a gun in his car. I don't know shit. So, again, here's the fucked up part. Despite the fact that my position was, I don't give a fuck about your kid if you don't give a fuck about him. Here I am putting my life on the line for a child against a nigga that could potentially have a weapon. I'm pretty sure Mike never done something like that, but I digress. I'm not here to compare size. I'm not here to compare dick sizes. I'm just saying there's a contradiction in his approach in terms of resolving social economical issues within our societies. Despite he lives in the UK and we live in America, I do have a problem with people who cannot separate fiction from reality. And that is one of the main reasons, is because he becomes a corporate boot stomper for corporations. Because he identifies IEPs as children, as opposed to actual children, you know, God's created gift, you know, the people that go through the 9 months of, you know, of being born in this world. It's not really important. But the corporation's IP, that's something we need to protect. And I walked to him in his car. He beams me the kid, and he said, take the child to the mama. And I was like, thank you. And I said, I hope everything works out for you. So I'm taking the kid back to the 2001 Vision Center. And then all of a sudden I hear this loud bam. Sound like a gunshot. I turned around, despite the fact that I should be running. I turned around, and this man got a tire iron in his hand, busting out the windows of his girlfriend's car. And I said, okay, I'm not going to take any chances because he can take that away and run into that store and kill this woman. I picked up the kid, I ran inside, and the eye doctor locked the door, and they called the cops. Now, by my standards, would I call myself a hero? Not really. Because like I said, I ain't give a fuck back then. I ain't give a fuck at the beginning. But see, here's the thing. That's more real than what Mike presents himself as. And I'm getting sick and tired of people like that. Where when they turn that camera on, they're the embodiment of Jesus Christ. AKA white branding. If that makes any sense, you know. In terms of corporate brands, you know, capitalism kind of functions in a way where it's like, you know, so long as there's no controversy tied to the brand, you know, you can put your money on it. But the second, you know, that brand, it's all pearline and white, got a little smudge on it, all of a sudden the money just kind of cuts out. I call it white branding. I'm getting sick and tired of people like that. And I'm starting to embrace people more like David Wood. And if you guys aren't familiar with David Wood, he's a Christian apologist, you know. Does the whole debating with like people from Dawa and Muslims and stuff like that, and spreads Christian theology. And it's because of people like him and Eric that I'm actually giving Christianity a second chance. You know, Because back then I left Christianity, I was like, seeing all these fucking hypocrites, going in this fucking building talking about praise Jesus, and then as soon as the pastor lets everybody go, everybody just goes right back to being fucking sinful as fuck. I'm like, Christianity is just fake, fake as hell. Why the hell should I abide by it? So, back before I left for college, I was going to church every now and again, but like sooner or later, as I was hanging around all those leftist friends, people that vote primarily Democrat, I said, fuck it. Especially around that time, 2007, with Westboro Baptist Church, you can do some research on that. And people were crazy as hell. So, you can say there was an socio-economical influence that influenced my idea of abandoning the church, which wasn't really a great idea to begin with, especially if you were a Christian. You would kick out the false believers, because at that point, the house of God is no longer a house of God, it's a box full of demons. And if you ain't got a man strong enough to tell these demons to get the fuck out, well then guess what? A church is no longer a church. It's a synagogue of demons, or it becomes a political apparatus for certain political parties. Whether it be Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. It loses its purpose. Because if you're the type of person to say Christianity belongs to Republicans or Democrats, you're a dumb motherfucker. Just saying. But I digress. But going back on the whole idea of, I forgot what I was. I already said about the kid. I already said this. I forgot where I left off. I do that a lot. But that's why I consider him a house pet. Oh, David Wood. Okay, people wonder why I follow David Wood. I'll tell you why. Unlike every other YouTuber on this goddamn fucking platform, whether it be Hassan Piker, Asmongold, Frogan, Vosh, anybody you could possibly fucking think of, doesn't really matter. I find it inspiring that a man who is diagnosed to be a psychopath, he's a diagnosed psychopath, can look the camera straight in the eye and go, back then when I was 18, he did sexual things with a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old. And he explained his childhood back then as being godless, heathenless, with no direction, thinking he can get away with anything. The man did a lot more than just that. Like, man tried to kill his damn dad. I mean, quite literally admitted to attempted murder. And he was talking about how what he did back then was completely wrong. And he explained why it was wrong. As in, children obviously cannot consent, no matter how grown they look, or no matter their age, they cannot consent. Because that is a philosophy in terms of protecting not corporations' IPs, not man's creations, but God's children. Okay? God's children. As in people that look like me, people that look like you, people that look like him, Asians, Mexicans, don't fucking matter. And yes, I can understand we're growing in a society where a lot of kids are inspiring to become influencers and trans women, primarily trans women. I don't know why the whole, you don't really hear much about trans men, but it's always trans women for some reason. But despite that, we live in a society where that's a constant trend. I kind of look at that and I go, who would sacrifice themselves for a child in a society where you're not entirely sure that motherfucker gonna grow up to be a doctor, or he's gonna grow up to be a drag queen? And a lot of people always have their excuses as to why they don't do a service in offering their body in exchange for a child's life, such as, the Jews control all the politicians. So, I can understand from their position, why would they join the army? They don't want to be a tool for the Mossad. That makes a lot of sense. I can understand it from that position. It's not really true, especially when you look at the lobbyist data. Middle East is far more concerned in our lobbies in terms of influencing money than Israel, but I digress. But I can understand why, they don't want to, sacrifice their lives for innocent people. They have their quote unquote reasons. But my thing is this. As politics continues to drive a wedge within our society, there are going to be a host of people who scream protect the children, but they don't really mean God's image. They could mean corporations' IP. They could mean only the white kids. They could mean only the black kids. They could only mean just the LGBTQ, disabled, and minorities. Who knows? But as that wedge gets wider and wider and wider, I don't care if it's me, I don't care if it's anybody else. And I got sidetracked, but let me go ahead and say this. The reason why I followed David Wood, despite the fact he admitted that, it's a breath of fresh air where someone can look a camera directly in the eye and admit that, and they don't give a fuck about views, subscribers, and money. It's a breath of fresh air. It really is. Now, if you have the evidence to prove that what he said was a fact, and that it was more recent, because he already went to jail for it, he went to jail for statutory rape. And for those who don't understand what statutory rape means, it just means having sex with someone who cannot consent. It doesn't mean you force them down. But, a lot of people in America and the UK are retarded. So, the second they hear statutory rape, they think the worst. So if you have the evidence, by all means, present it. But here's the funny part. Despite the fact that David Wood was upfront and honest with what he did back when he was 18, people from Dawa like Daniel Hakikachu, who openly admits that it is perfectly fine for a grown man to have marital relations with a child, start running the campaign with, I forgot that girl's name, Julius something. She runs a Christian journalist website where she writes Christian articles. And he joined hands with her in trying to get him to deplatform himself on YouTube and to deplatform himself in the ministry. Which is kind of ironic that you would take the opinion of a person who openly advocates for child marriage while saying that David Wood is somehow an aggressor upon children. Very interesting perspective. And there's a number of people that'll take that and they'll twist it and they'll try to paint him as something evil like Andrew Wilson and harmful opinions while taking what he says out of context. I really don't trust that harmful opinion motherfucker. That something's wrong with that guy. And I'm saying everything he says is a lie, but it's like when it comes to certain topics, he will twist a lot of things he says. But I digress. But that's why I follow David Wood on a platform that endorses white branding to look as clean as God as possible. People are incentivized financially to look like they got no skeletons in their closet. And for David Wood, that's like a breath of fresh air, A guy can openly admit, like, I ain't perfect. I did some fucked up things in my damn life. Here's one of them. Say it as you will. If you want to leave, by all means leave. If not, okay. You can rock with me. If not, okay. I'm not going to wish ill will towards you. He's not here for the money like Andrew Wilson and other people, Like that whole conversation I had with Mike Hollow really really opened my eyes about what type of people I've been following. Like, I can see through the dialectic every now and again, but not all the time. Some people can play the part pretty good. But it goes to show you that we're growing into a society, you can't trust a lot of people in this world. Just because they put, the camera on their face, they smiling. They say Christ is king or protect the children. It's getting to the point where you can't trust a single motherfucker but yourself. And that's fine. You know what? That's fine. And I really don't care what Mike Hollow says about his little potentials of me being a threat. I really don't care. Because I'll tell you why. He's a flawed human being. Especially considering the fact you can't separate fiction from reality. You definitely are a flawed human being, and that's fine. But that means your justice, it's not justice, it's social justice. It's not real justice. You're just saying things to be socially acceptable. So, when I look at things like that, I go, to hell with the world's labels, like racism, pedophile, white supremacist, fascism, whatever little fucking label motherfuckers want to throw on you to get you to shut up. I don't give a fuck anymore. Especially considering the fact I'm the type of person that adorns the label apostate, which means Muslims are legally justified to kill me for shitting on their prophet Muhammad. So I really don't give a fuck about your damn labels. Because I know at the end of the day, let's say for instance I am that, right? At the end of the day, when my heart starts beating and my soul leaves my body, I will be judged by the utmost high. An utmost high that knows every deed of light and every deed of darkness that I have ever done in my entire fucking life. And I know through his grace and through my heart, I am not what you proclaim that I am, while saying that you didn't say that, while high-fiving everybody in your fucking comment section, painting me as the worst thing like Shadman or Christian. Which is funny, because I don't remember saying anything along the lines of fucking my grandma, but apparently your people are so low IQ to the point that they think I fucked my grandma. But that says a lot about your audience. So let me go ahead and just say this. Yeah, he is a house pet. He's a house pet for corporations. Because look how far he's willing to march for a corporation. But see how far he's willing to go for a real child. And look at where he is in terms of the FGC. He's a known name. He's a very known name in the FGC. But he's a blip compared to all the big fish within the sea. Like Maximilian Dude and the rest of them. So not a lot of people are going to listen to him. So then how do you break through something like that, How do you get a corporation to listen to you, the person that comes out with video complaining about what they're updating and what they're putting in video games ain't to your sensibilities? But you're not providing a secure method of securing profits for that corporation, as opposed to someone like Maximilian Dude, who can touch a game and can ensure you at least the majority of people are going to buy the damn thing he's touching. That's why Capcom's willing to work with him. Well, one of the many reasons, I'm not going to say it's just purely that. I think Max is a good person. A little sketchy in some areas, but I think he's a good person. But the big question is why would a corporation like Capcom listen to you? When they got someone like Maximilian Dude. Why would they listen to a complainer who picks up a game, can't guarantee people paying $70, $80, $90, $100 for an unlimited edition of their fucking game that they put shit in that nobody's asking for. Versus someone who can guarantee that no matter what they put in that damn game, when they're picking it up and playing it, their viewers are gonna fucking buy it. You gotta ask yourself that question. And then the next question you have to ask is would a house pet like that maintain his values of what he's saying today versus tomorrow when he is accepted into the attic of Capcom? No, he will not. Because in order for you to play in an industry that takes your money, whether it be 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, doesn't matter, on a product that you don't even officially own, by the way, I want to make that abundantly clear, how can you ensure that your principles won't just change? You know, you're fighting for the people, and then all of a sudden you're going along to get along, like Kamwane Brown used to say, with all these freaking house pits within the rap game industry to say all the right things you want to hear, and then all of a sudden they flip. How can you ensure that person doesn't flip on you in an industry that says, well, if you want the money, you're going to play by our rules. And if you don't play by our rules, we'll find a pet that can do it. Because you can do all your little professional videos, and I'm talking about everybody, it ain't just Mike. You can do your little professional videos all you want about begging for this and telling them to take this out to make the gameplay a lot better, focus on this, don't focus on that, yada yada, etc., etc. It doesn't translate the money though. It doesn't translate the profit. You can say that as much as you want, but at the end of the day, it does nothing. But you know what does solve the fucking problem? Folks, if you are tired of these corporations spitting in your fucking face talking about you need to die because your political senses don't align with the modern audience, I suggest you take your goddamn money that says in God we trust and get the fuck out the goddamn industry. Stop hanging around with these house pets, acting like their professionalism is somehow going to change the fucking industry. It's not going to change the industry. It's not. Invest in indies. I know it's not Mario, it's not Star Fox, it's not your beloved IPs. But when the heavenly kingdom of God that was built on earth is taken over by the devil and is no longer the heavenly kingdom of God, it is the heavenly kingdom of Satan, you gotta learn to cut ties with that shit. It ain't heaven anymore, it's hell. I mean, yeah, it has all the fruits and everything you like to make it seem like it's Christian, but it's ran by ultimately a devil that honestly believes that they can do a lot better than what God ever did. So you have to look at that. And you have to ask yourself, well, what the fuck am I getting out of following a house pet, whether it be Mike or any other influencer that thinks their level of professionalism is somehow going to change the industry? It's not. And I'll tell you why. That revenue stream affects a lot more than a black man with a white face. Okay? And I'll tell you why. When the corporation is bleeding money, because they know for a fact you're dumb enough to foot the bill. Let's face it. And I'm not saying that to demean you, right? I'm saying that because I also did the same thing too as everybody else. I mean, for crying out loud, I pumped so much fucking money into Destiny, I don't know what. Like, I'm not speaking as a person better than thou. I am speaking as a person who is one of you. Sick and tired of all the goose stomping, sick and tired of all the house pettery, sick and tired of all the false promises, and getting shit in your face and people telling you in the institutions that they invaded that's what you're gonna have to deal with. Suck it up. Because the modern audience, who ain't buying the damn thing, wants it. So you have to tell yourself, no, I'm done with the whole anti-woke shit, because let's be honest, a lot of these motherfuckers don't got a goddamn solution to begin with. And their fucking solution is hot garbage. Trying to sell their little fucking book and nobody's interested in it. Because guess what? They're competing in a market that is oversaturated with shit that can't allow their comic book to stand out, because their comic book look like everything else. Shit. So how do you compete in a market such as that? You know, creativity can only go so far. Granted, there are some who are creative, like Mugen Lord, who have shown that despite the fact that the market is saturated, he's doing pretty well. Eric's doing pretty well. I think Clownfish TV is doing pretty well. But a lot of these people in the anti-woke position, aka the ban porn position, who are literal fucking furries. This is why I say you should question people when they say protect the children, because their definition is varies based on their political positions. The thing you have to ask yourself is this: why are you following these people? Why are you following these people that bitch and complain 24/7, 7 days a week, but their fucking solution is as bad as the last person's solution? But they expect you to put the money in the bank because they're the alternative. You gotta realize something, people. These people got us by the balls. Because when a solution does come around the corner, guess what? Both the left and the right are gonna join hands talking about how that solution is evil and it shouldn't exist in the first fucking place. And when you pay attention to Twitter, which is a perfect place you want to go to if you really want to see that dialectical diaphragm in action, you'll see both the left and right attack valuable solutions to the industry. And also, fuck those people in Mike Hollow's audience talking about Ripaverse. Just because I was wearing a shirt, they tried to associate that whole little fucking scenario with him. First of all, fuck y'all. Second, you're not good people if you really think just because you associate somebody with somebody else's fucking shit, they somehow have some type of correlation. You're a piece of shit for that. Anyway, I digress. And that's why I'm even more of a reason to say he's a house pet. Because he liked conversations like that too in the comment section. But you got to realize something. When I look at a person like Eric July and I look at a person like Mike Hollow, one side's with the corporation, the other side's with himself. Who the fuck am I going to put my money on? The person that sides with himself, not the person that sides with the corporation. Not the person that says, oh, the corporate's IP is being sexualized, so therefore we need to do something about it. You know, fuck all that little PR legal speak where they're talking about childlike and all that shit. No, let's call it exactly what the fuck it is. Corporation's IP. When a corporation's IP is being sexualized, and you're more concerned about that, and then in the same breath, you high-fiving people in your damn comment section talking about if anyone's talking about the Epstein files, they're automatically sus. Nah, bitch, you automatically sus. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Even if I am an insignificant blip on the fucking face of the goddamn earth, especially considering, you know, the race relations are getting sour, and you know, a nigger's opinion ain't really worth shit, I'm still gonna fucking say it because I don't give a fuck. Irregardless of how insignificant I really am. But to you, the fact that you think you have to be significant to say something about the violation of God's children says a lot about you as a person. Not a YouTuber, a person. It says a lot about you as a person. Because let's go ahead and get one point fucking clear here. A lot of us are getting tired of it, bro. We are. We're getting tired of the performative outrage. We're getting tired of people being upset when someone says the word nigger. in a context that's not demeaning towards a racial demographic. But when someone says it in a very cheek and tongue kind of way where they really do mean something like that, oh, it's perfectly fine because, they have a track record of fighting on behalf of minorities, so they can't be racist. We're tired of this shit. We're tired of it. We're fed up with it. We're tired of people turning on the camera and saying, I'm promising you this, I'm promising you that, and they don't fucking deliver. And if we're tired of that from our politicians, we're definitely tired of that from YouTubers who think that their positions is somehow going to magically save the country. Such as the ban porn crowd, which I find very hilarious, that a group of people who has been bitching and complaining about socialism for good reason, says it has a history and a track record of failing, wants to push a policy that has a history and track record of failing, which ought to tell you something about that person. I'm not going to say who they are. That's your homework. You're going to figure that out. But if you're familiar with prohibition, especially in the United States, when they banned alcohol, do you think everybody just said, oh, well, I can't get my freak on, might as well go to church, spend 15-20% of my fucking tithing? You think they did that? No, they didn't do that. They said, give me some gasoline, some alcohol, some mint, some dandelions, and let's see what the fuck we can come up with. They can give me that same fix. The war on porn is pointless as the war on drugs. Let me reiterate that. The war on porn is as pointless as the war on drugs. It's pointless. Now, I'm not saying let everybody take up a needle and shoot themselves in the arm. I'm not saying that. I'm saying all this over-regulation is a problem. Because as much as y'all have sensibilities in the debate sphere, the legislation likes to take it overboard. They like government overreach. Every fucking time. And I don't trust that shit. This is why my requirement, if you do say you protect the fucking children, and you do are concerned about that, the requirement I at least require from every single person who screams that is to take one bullet. Take a bullet. Take a knife stab. Get punched in the face. Lose several of your teeth. Break your jaw. Come to me looking tarnished as opposed to coming to me as a white knight that has never seen any action to begin with, while claiming that you're an expert of killing dragons. But your armor is shiny as hell. That's my requirement. And if you can't fulfill that, then fuck you. No one should trust you. And the second you make a move, everyone should be justified in using force to get you the fuck out. And depending on how hard you fucking resist, something a lot more than just force may be needed to put your service at an end. So it's 54 minutes. I've done my walk. I'm going to the house. It is 90 out here. I am wearing a black t-shirt. Fucking Disturbed. How's it going, everybody? Disturbed fans, rock out. I will catch you guys later. I just wanted to do this live stream as I had these thoughts in my head. I didn't want them to fall out of my head as I'm on my internet break. I started going back to church. I'm actually enjoying it now. Went back to my grandma's church. So much has changed. It's not even funny. I may actually start spending a little bit more time going back there because I feel like they're more needed than anybody else in the world. Everybody else can fucking die. I really don't care. Take care of your fucking communities in order for me to care about you. Until then, die. This is Yoshi the Oreo. And I love you all so long as you love yourselves to protect yourselves and not corporations' IPs. Take care. I end the shit. Oh, good. I don't know how to end it. Okay.